Everyone tells you that falling in love is the greatest feeling in the world. Movies glorify it, songs worship it, and friends swear it's the one thing that makes life worth living. We've been raised to believe that if we're not falling in love, then we're somehow missing out on the essence of existence. But what if this entire idea is not just wrong but dangerous? What if the very act of falling in love is exactly what robs you of your freedom, your clarity, and your strength? Seneca, the Stoic philosopher who lived 2,000 years ago, believed that passion and emotional surrender were among the fastest ways to lose control of your life. He warned that when we let desire and infatuation take over, reason gets silenced, judgment gets clouded, and suddenly we're no longer leading our lives. We're being led by forces we can't control. Think about it. Falling in love isn't usually a rational choice. It's a plunge, a loss of balance, a state of mind where we hand over the keys of our happiness to someone else. For a while, it feels intoxicating, but underneath the thrill hides something darker: dependency, obsession, and the constant fear of losing what we've attached ourselves to. Seneca would argue that love, when it blinds us, is not a gift, it's a trap. Now, before you dismiss this as cold or cynical, stay with me. Because what Seneca reveals about love is not about rejecting it, but about understanding it in a way most people never do. He exposes the illusions, the dangers, and ultimately, the way to transform love into something wiser, stronger, and more lasting than the shallow versions society feeds us. So let's step into this uncomfortable idea together. Let's ask the question no one wants to ask. Is falling in love really the dumbest thing you can do? And if Seneca was right, what's the alternative that could save you from heartbreak, chaos, and regret? From the moment we are children, the idea of love is poured into our minds like water into an empty cup. Fairy tales whisper that the prince will save the princess, that one magical moment of romance will change everything, that happiness is waiting at the altar, at the kiss, at the union of two people. Hollywood refines this myth, presenting love as a climax, the highest point of human life. Pop songs play on repeat, promising that nothing else matters if you have that one special person. And without realizing it, we internalize this narrative as if it were universal truth. Life is incomplete until you fall in love. But Seneca would laugh at this illusion, not because he despised connection, but because he recognized how easily we enslave ourselves to fantasies. To him, the so-called glory of love wasn't freedom at all. It was a clever trick of the emotions, a wave that sweeps over the mind until reason is drowned beneath it. He warned that passion is a form of madness, an intoxication that blinds the soul to reality. And when we are blinded, we make choices that we later regret, choices that strip us of the very independence that philosophy tries to protect. Think about how love is marketed in our world today. Dating apps promise that your perfect soulmate is only a swipe away. Social media feeds you endless photos of couples on vacations, anniversaries, and candlelit dinners. The message is constant. Without love, you are missing out on life's greatest joy. Yet how often do these illusions lead people into the very opposite of joy? How often do they lead to jealousy, betrayal, manipulation, or despair? The truth is that love, when taken as an emotional high, is just another form of addiction. It gives a rush of dopamine, a chemical hit that feels like ecstasy. But what happens when the high fades? What happens when the other person disappoints you, when they pull away, when they remind you that they are not the perfect fantasy you imagine? This is where the illusion shatters, and the cost of blind love becomes clear. Seneca observed that when we pin our happiness on someone else, we hand over our peace of mind. We allow them to our moods, our stability, even our self-worth. And in doing so, we lose the very thing philosophy teaches us to protect, our inner freedom. For what kind of freedom is it when your day can be destroyed by a delayed text, or your self-image collapses because the one you adore no longer adores you back? The modern world might have advanced in technology, but in matters of the heart, we are no different from the Romans. Humans still get consumed by lust, jealousy, and attachment. We still mistake infatuation destiny. We still chase after love as though it will solve all our problems. But as Seneca would argue, the problem is not love itself. It's our blindness to its true nature. To him, the dumbest thing you could do is fall, lose yourself, and become enslaved to a passion you never examined with reason. And this brings us to a deeper question. What does love do to the human mind when it takes control? How exactly does it enslave us, distort us, and lead us into ruin? This is where Seneca's warnings become most powerful. Because he didn't just philosophize in theory. He observed human nature with brutal clarity. When a person falls in love, the world narrows down to a single point, the beloved. Everything else fades in importance. Duties, ambitions, friendships, all can be neglected in pursuit of the one passion that dominates the heart. Suddenly, the rational mind takes a back seat. Decisions are no longer made based on virtue, discipline, or reason. They are driven by desire, jealousy, or fear of loss. And when the mind is led by emotions, it becomes like a ship steered by storms. You may think you're in control, but in reality you're being tossed by waves far stronger than you. This is why Seneca compared passion to slavery. He saw that a person enslaved to love no longer belongs to themselves. Their peace of mind depends on someone else's actions. Their happiness hangs on another's presence. And their sense of value is tied to something fragile and temporary. And because of this, they are easily broken, easily manipulated, easily led into despair. Consider how often we see brilliant, capable people make the most foolish choices when under the spell of love. Leaders who risk their empires for the affection of one person. Artists who destroy their health, chasing someone who doesn't value them. Everyday men and women who abandon friends, family, even personal dreams because they've been consumed by an intoxicating romance. It's as though love has the power to hijack the human operating system, turning wise individuals into reckless ones. Modern psychology echoes what Seneca already knew. Neuroscience shows that the brain in love looks almost identical to the brain addicted to drugs. The same reward circuits light up, the same withdrawals occur, the same irrational cravings create behavior. Falling in love is not far from falling into addiction, and like any addiction, it can strip you of freedom. You become needy for the next text, desperate for the next meeting, restless at the thought of losing access to that emotional drug. But Seneca would remind us of a harsh truth. Anything that owns your peace owns you. And when love owns you, you are no longer the master of your soul. You're at the mercy of someone else's decisions, moods. For a Stoic, this was the ultimate mistake. Because philosophy's central aim is to be free, to live with inner stability no matter what storms rage outside. Love in its uncontrolled form undermines that goal completely. And here lies the paradox. The very thing people chase to feel alive often leads them to lose themselves. Falling in love promises happiness, yet so often brings suffering. It offers fulfillment, yet frequently leads to emptiness. It feels like liberation, yet in reality, it's bondage dressed up as bliss. So when Seneca warns that falling in love may be the dumbest thing you can do, he isn't sneering at affection. He's pointing to the self-destruction that comes when we fall blindly, when we surrender reason, when we hand our freedom over without a second thought. To him, this isn't love, it's self-sabotage. But does this mean love has no place in life? Not at all. The Stoics didn't reject human bonds. They simply insisted that these bonds must never dominate the soul. Love must be chosen with wisdom, not stumbled into with blindness. Which raises the next question. If falling in love is a trap, how do we rise above it? How do we engage with love without losing ourselves? That's where Seneca's alternative comes into play. A way of seeing love not as a reckless fall, but as a conscious choice rooted in self-mastery. Seneca never argued that humans should live without bonds, without companionship, or without affection. That would be impossible, and in many ways unnatural. What he did argue was that love must never rule you. To him, love, like any other passion, should serve reason, not replace it. And this is where we arrive at the alternative, the Stoic way of approaching relationships. Not as a fall, but as a rise. Not as a surrender, but as a choice. Instead of blind passion, Seneca emphasized friendship as the highest form of human connection. Friendship, in his view, was built not on fleeting desire or infatuation, but on respect, virtue, and shared values. Unlike passion, which consumes, friendship uplifts. Unlike infatuation, which enslaves, friendship frees. A true bond, Seneca taught, is one where two people walk side by side as complete individuals, not where one collapses into dependency on the other. Think of how different this is from modern love stories. Today, the narrative often goes, "You complete me." But for Seneca, this was dangerous. You should never need another person to complete you. You should already be whole. If you enter a relationship broken, hoping someone else will fill the cracks, you are not loving. They are rescuing. And when you place the burden of your happiness on another human, you set the stage for inevitable disappointment. Seneca believed the wise person approaches love with strength, not weakness. They don't cling to it desperately, fearing its loss, nor do they become intoxicated by its illusions. Instead, they enjoy it while it halts, without letting it dominate their soul. This doesn't mean becoming cold or robotic. It means becoming free. It means recognizing that while love can enrich life, it should never define life. Take, for example, the difference between passion-driven love and reason-driven love. Passion-driven love burns hot, but quickly. It thrives on novelty, intensity, and the rush of desire. But just as a fire that blazes too fast burns out, so too does passion collapse into ashes. Reason-driven love, on the other hand, is steady. It's not blind, but deliberate. It chooses a partner based not on momentary thrills, but on shared virtues, character, and stability. This kind of love does not enslave. It strengthens. And this is what Seneca would call the wise path. To rise into love, not fall into it. To love not as an addict, but as a free soul. To enter relationships with clarity, not loosen. Because then, even if love ends as it often does, you do not lose yourself. You remain whole, unshaken, because you never gave away your foundation in the first place. This idea may feel strange in our modern culture, where love is often presented as something that should sweep you off your feet. But Seneca would ask, why would you want to be swept off your feet? To be swept off your feet is to lose balance, to fall, to crash into something uncontrolled. The Stoic path isn't about falling. It's about standing firmly, walking with eyes open, and choosing with wisdom. Now, how do we apply this in the modern world? How do we take Seneca's ancient insights and live them out in an age of dating apps, casual hookups, and romantic obsession? The first lesson is independence. Before you seek love, you must be complete within yourself. Seneca would say, don't run into love as an escape from loneliness. Learn to be content alone. Learn to master your own emotions, your own habits, your own life. Because if you cannot be at peace with yourself, no relationship will save you. At best, it will distract you. At worst, it will magnify your emptiness. The second lesson is clarity. Love is not something you stumble into by accident. It should be examined, questioned, and approached with awareness. Ask yourself, why do I love this person? Is it their character, their virtue, their soul? Or is it lust, novelty, and the thrill of attention? If it's the latter, Seneca would say you're chasing shadows. True love should be anchored in substance, not illusion. The third lesson is detachment. This doesn't mean coldness. It means freedom. Even in love, remain whole. Never let your peace depend on another's mood, presence, or affection. Appreciate them, cherish them, but never hand them the keys to your soul, because if you do, you are no longer free, you are owned. And finally, the fourth lesson is transformation. Love, when approached with wisdom, can be one of the greatest teachers. It reveals your weaknesses, your desires, your hidden fears. If you use it as a mirror, it can make you stronger, more virtuous, more self-aware, but only if you resist the urge to become lost in it. Think about how different life would be if people followed these principles. Instead of rushing into toxic relationships out of desperation, people would choose wisely with clarity. Instead of collapsing when heartbreak comes, they would remain stable, knowing they are whole regardless of who stays or leaves. Instead of falling blindly, they would rise consciously, transforming love from a source of chaos into a source of strength. Now let's contrast this with what usually happens today. People often enter relationships not from strength, but from weakness. They are lonely, insecure, or bored, and they seek another person to fix that. At first, it feels like salvation. The rush of attraction fills the void, but over time, the cracks reappear. The old insecurities return. The person they idolized begins to disappoint them. And because their happiness depended on the other, they spiral into despair when things fall apart. This is why so many people find themselves broken by love, instead of strengthened by it. Seneca would call this foolishness. To him, the dumbest thing is not love itself. It's dependency. It's forgetting that your happiness must come from within, not from another. He would urge us to see love not as salvation, but as a partnership, something to enrich life, not something to sustain it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't want to hear this. They want the fantasy. They want to be swept away. They want the intoxicating high of blind love, even if it costs Sam freedom. This is why heartbreak stories will never end, why toxic relationships will always exist, why people will continue to lose themselves in the name of love, because the illusion is easier to embrace than the discipline of wisdom. Yet for those who are willing to listen, for those who want to live free, Seneca offers an alternative. He offers a way to rise above the illusions, to love with eyes wide open, to remain whole even when love ends. He shows us that the truest form of love is not dependency, but strength, not obsession, but respect, not falling, but rising. So let's bring it all together. Falling in love blindly is indeed one of the dumbest things you can do. It robs you of freedom, enslaves your mind, and sets you up for inevitable pain. But loving wisely, loving as a free, whole person, can be one of the most beautiful things you ever experience. The difference lies not in love itself, but in you. Ask yourself, are you falling blindly or rising consciously? Are you clinging out of desperation or choosing out of strength? Are you handing away your peace or protecting it as your highest treasure? Seneca would remind us that everything in life is temporary. Wealth, status, even relationships. But what should never be temporary is your freedom, your clarity, and your virtue. These are yours to protect. These are the true foundations of a good life. And so, when you love, love wisely. Don't fall. Don't lose yourself. Stand firm, choose clearly, and rise into love with strength. Because then, even if love fades, you will remain whole. And that, to Seneca, is the only way to truly live free. And so, we return to the question we began with. Is falling in love really the dumbest thing you can do? Seneca would say yes, if that love blinds you, enslaves you, or strips you of your freedom. But he would also say no, if that love is chosen with wisdom, rooted in virtue, and embraced without surrendering yourself. The truth is, Love is not the problem, blindness. And when you can see clearly, when you can rise instead of fall, love can become one of life's greatest gifts. Not a prison, but a path to strength. The world will keep telling you that happiness is found in someone else's arms, in the dizzy rush of passion, in the illusion of being swept away. But the Stoics, and Seneca in particular, invite you to a deeper truth, that happiness begins in you, that freedom is your birthright, that love, like every other part of life, should never make you smaller. It should make you greater. If these ideas resonate with you, if you feel that pull toward strength, clarity, and wisdom, then you're in the right place. This channel is about more than just philosophy. It's about learning to master yourself in a world that constantly tries to master you. It's about transforming ancient wisdom into modern power. And if you've watched this far, it's because you already sense that your life is meant for more than illusion. So don't just leave with a thought. Stay for the journey. Subscribe, join this community, and keep building that inner strength that no heartbreak, no loss, no storm can ever take from you. Because here, we don't fall blindly. We rise consciously, and together, we'll keep rising, one video at a time.